Okay, so good morning everybody. My name is Garry Stewart. I'm from Recognised Black Heritage and Culture. Fortunately, I seem to know everybody in the room, so that makes it easier for me being up here. I just want to talk about Recognise. We started off several years ago as a group. We were actually looking at events that were promoting the experiences of black people in the UK, positive stuff to actually counteract the negative stuff that we actually saw. And from that, we eventually started on World War One, and we got involved in it by just doing a simple project for some people. And now it's actually my life, so it's taken over completely. Sorry, just need to. So over the years, we started working on World War One project, and these were some of the organisations that we've actually linked into or we've had events put into. As you can see there, we've had articles in The Voice several times. I've been on New Star Radio last year for 3 weeks actually talking about the issue. We've had articles in the Birmingham Mail. We've been working with the Drum, Heritage Lotteries. We're part of the Centre Voices of War and Peace. Been working with Birmingham Museum Library Group. And what we found, Ian talked about legacy before. The thing that I've found is not legacy, sorry, that is correct, legacy, but unity. That's the word that I want to leave today. Because what the thing is there are lots of organisations working on these projects and everybody's become very squirrelish, hiding stuff behind. And what that means is when we come at the end of the project, people will take their stuff and put it in storage. And it needs to be shared. And one of the things I'm glad to see here today is at some point we all seem to have connected, or we know each other, and everybody seems to know of everybody's project. So that's one of the important things that I want to bring on, talk about today. So I'm not as trained as Nick, so if I sound a bit, sorry. So this is an event we had last year, which was called Black Soldiers, the First World War, Past, Future and Present. And it was an idea, Sanders today, we brought everybody together to have a discussion, to talk about what people were doing, what people were planning. And again, just to let everybody know, one of the things I seem to be good at finding out is what people are doing. But like I say, I find London won't talk to Birmingham and Manchester won't talk to anywhere else because Manchester's Manchester. So again, Stephen, I found out about Stephen a while ago and he actually asked me to write a foreword for his book. So what I found is I followed Nick again in that as well, which I seem to follow you in everything. So I wrote a short piece in that as well, and obviously Stephen came up here earlier in the year as well, and I was at that, or back in the last year, and I was at that event as well. This was another event we found out about last minute. We went down to London. This was Walter Tull, a plaque for actual Walter Tull, which was actually put up just round the corner from Tottenham Football Club. We found out about it, and we took the standards down, which is Warwi. I won't touch on that too much because I'm sure Warwi will want to talk about that project. But one of the things, it's about physical. We always want a unique project in the UK because they actually have standards, an actual physical item people can see that was representative of World War One. But again, I'll let them talk about their standards. And as you can see, there's Scarf Crooks who actually did the unveiling. So again, this is one of the standards. This is me with Horace. This was an event we did here last year, and we had to, again, that's the one that ended up in The Voice. A play that we did in conjunction with the Drum, which is, there's talk about this play actually being extended this year to become a touring play. It's not my field really, I was an advisor on the play. You're going to talk about it? All right, so Ian's going to talk about that as well. At this rate, I'll be finished in 5 minutes. So when we talk about pictures, never forget. And it's important when we go back and talk, this was the picture that I grew up understanding World War One to be, just about white soldiers. I didn't realise until probably 4 or 5 years ago that other people took part. And again, a picture that's more representative of the people who actually fought. What I find fascinating is the images that you can find on the net. We trawl pretty much every week to find new images, and there's stuff being released. It's like being drip-fed onto the internet. These are memorials. This is a memorial in Jamaica that's actually been put up. Again, would never have known about it. So what we're just trying to show is the work that we've actually found so far and bringing together what everybody else has found. This is actually a grave, I think it's in the Palestine, of an actual West India Regiment soldier, a British West India Regiment soldier. And one of the things that we've been very keen to talk about is a lot of people like to mention that if black soldiers were there, they were just labourers, as if it wasn't an important part of the war. Being in the military myself, I know that every cog has to work properly. And if you've got nobody to load your shells, you've got nobody to fire them. It doesn't really work like that. So it's important that we get away from that myth as well. And there's also looking into pictures, trying to interpret what you see. This is just like several men standing around looking in the sky. But what they're actually looking at is an aircraft that's flying across above them. And as you can imagine, being the First World War, they've probably never seen a plane before themselves. So it's also trying to interpret what we see inside pictures. Again, with this story as well, it's showing that soldiers didn't fight, black soldiers didn't fight, they weren't on frontline troops, but these men have been trained to clean their weapons. Every good soldier knows that. And then we find pictures like these that are on the net as well, from Empire that was, so the Commonwealth, that we will remember them, for we are all children of the Empire. But that's not a story that was portrayed at the time. Again, we're also looking at the British West Indies Regiment and the West Indian Regiment, and it is important to make sure we get the right one as well. As we know, it's the 100-year, part of this discussion today is the 100-year anniversary of the British West Indian Regiment. And one of the things we're going to talk about shortly as well is events that are going on, what people are planning. There was a memorial unveiled last year in London, which is the first memorial in Europe to black and African soldiers. The only problem is it's being put back into storage at the moment, so it's not actually physically on display, but there are plans to bring that out again this year as part of the centenary. And also as well, there's plans to actually make Birmingham have a memorial. So we're in discussion, that's something I want to discuss with you all today as well. And again, looking at further pictures that we've actually found, it's also important to discuss that the different islands in the Caribbean that actually fought as well, because as we know, there'll be inter-island rivalry as well. And what also happened was the Bermudian Regiment was actually integrated into a British regiment. So it's important to understand that while we're looking at black people, there will also be black soldiers who were in British regiments and not just in a specific regiment. It's also important that we trace that down as well. Again, from interpreting this picture, you can see that they're all carrying weapons and doing weapons drills, so they would have been taught how to use their weapons. And also, one of the things I wanted to look at as well, while we're talking about black British soldiers, it's also important to understand that the narrative was people in this country at the time would not have realised that France actually had its colonial troops as well, which they used quite happily. They had no problems with it at all. And it's also looking at how to interpret why France was so open about it, but Britain was very closed and secretive about using troops and making agreements as well with Germany that they wouldn't actually use troops to fight each other. And this was just going back to what I said before. The guy on the that would be your left is actually a black soldier. I think it's the Manchester Regiment, is in what somebody's tried to trace it down. Don't quote me on that, but I think it's the Manchester Regiment. And these are men being sworn in. The Lord Mayor of London. These are men who've come over to join the British West India Regiment and had a signing in event. So we can see it's been very well documented. It's up to us, these people in the room, to actually join the picture together and tell the story. Again, the French troops, if I got this right, the Senegalese tirailleurs. And again, telling the story, not just the Western Front, but the British Palestine as well. These were the soldiers, how they were trained. I think that's quite a unique picture. It's also been folded for some reason as well. And just to prove the point, the differences in troops, this is actually a German soldier. He's actually a regular soldier that's been signed up in the German army, wearing the uniform there as well. And I think it'd be interesting if we could actually look at the differences of what his service would have been and what a British soldier's service would have been at the same time. The casualties of war. I only found this picture the other day, which I thought was quite unique. I mean, he's obviously had both his legs amputated, but it's just interesting to see pictures like this as well. So this is where we've got to so far. This is the homecoming. It wasn't very well documented about how these soldiers actually returned, because there was a mutiny at the end, and a lot of them were just shipped back to whatever island they came from. And once they were landed on the gangway, they were just told, you're now not in the British Army. You know, go away, do whatever. But there's a story to tell there, because look at everybody's come out to actually meet and greet them, and it'd be interesting to find out, as Nick said before, what are those stories? What are people's personal experiences? And if we can find those. I have a friend that's just gone back to Jamaica, and he's actually gone back to get pictures of his great-great-grandfather who actually served, and he's got the pictures, the war medals, absolutely everything. And this picture, it's one of my favourite. If anybody to my presentations before, I was waiting at this man's probably just about to be gassed, and that's his actual reaction. You know, which I just find it quite an amazing picture. So this is me. This is where you can get in touch with me if you don't know already as well. And I've got plenty more I'd like to talk about afterwards, but I think I've had my time now. So